All right, Emma, this recording is just for you. We're looking at your test. We're going to go over everything here and see if I can help you come to the correct answers. I'm not going to give you the correct answers because I want to give you the opportunity to redo it and get the right answers. So I'm going to walk you through this and see if I can help out a little bit more for you. So this is our big question. It says Gina and Danny are playing a subtraction card game. So that's important. We want to make sure, remember, they are playing a subtraction game. In the card game, each player takes turns pulling 2 cards one at a time from a deck of cards. Sorry. If the first card minus the second card is positive. So what they're saying here, card number 1 minus card number 2 equals positive. So card 1 minus card 2 is positive, then the player keeps those cards. If the answer is 0 or negative, so they're saying card 1 minus card 2, if it's 0 or negative, then the player will lose their cards and the cards go back in the deck. So we're not working with a typical deck of cards. There are only 10 cards in the deck which have the following numbers. So these are all the numbers in our deck. So question number 1 says, if a player gets a first card that is positive number, what must the second card be in order for the player to keep the cards? And then explain your reasoning. So let's look and see down here what you said your answer was for number 1. So you said to keep the cards that you pulled, you would have to pull 2 positive cards, which 2 cards is all you pull anyways. It depends on what you pull. So if you pull a negative card, then you have to put both cards that you pulled back, even if the one you just pulled was negative. So remember, we need to remember that they're playing a subtraction game. So they're asking us if that first card is positive. So if we pick any of these positive numbers, so we could pick, let's say, 0.1. If she picked 0.1, then we subtract card number 2. I don't know what that is yet, but what would that have to be in order for her to keep her cards? Remember, to keep her cards, she has to have a positive answer. So 0.1 minus what number can give her a positive answer? So I want to encourage you to take some of these numbers and try it out. Tell me what you get. I don't want to put this answer in for you because I don't want to answer the question for you. I want you to be able to figure it out. But I'm hoping these steps will help you get there. So the second question, and for some reason there is something missing here. In the document online, it says that Gina pulls a negative 0.2 as her first card. So now we're not guessing about what card she drew first. We know that she drew a negative 0.2. So what must her second card be in order for her to have a positive answer? And then list all correct answers and explain why or show your work. So the answer that you gave us, and I'm going to bring this down a little bit so we can see it. Gina's second card would have to be positive in order for her to keep her cards. So in the range of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5. What I want you to do is take one of these numbers and try it out. If Gina got negative 0.2 to start with, and then if she pulls 0.1, again, remember, they're subtracting. So you subtract a 0.1. Is that going to give you a positive answer or a negative answer? You don't want to forget your integer rules. These are super, super important. So they're so important that we're now in unit 4. We're almost done with unit 4 and we are still using them. So these are super important to know. So I'm going to make some notes here. All right, remember with your integer rules. All right, your integer rules for addition. I'm sorry if my handwriting here is terrible. Your integer rules for addition. If you have the same signs, then you add and keep the sign. If you have different signs or opposite signs, then you subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So now I'm going to use a darker blue and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do our subtraction rules. So when we subtract, you always have to change your subtraction, so you rewrite it as adding the opposite. So this would mean if we have -2 minus 3, we're going to change this subtraction so that we're now adding the opposite. So we would now add a negative, and now you're adding, so you would come back to your addition rules and look, is it the same sign or do we have different signs? I have a negative and a negative, so I have the same signs. So I'm going to add and keep the sign. So we would have -2 plus -3 is -5. So to write that in the original way before I did any changing, we had -2 minus 3 is equal to -5. It is super, super important that we remember both of these rules, both set of rules. So that's what we need to make sure we do here. So make sure that you're subtracting and that you're following these rules. Anytime you subtract, always rewrite it as adding the opposite. Then you're adding, and now you follow your addition rules. So for number 3, let's look at it a little bit more. Danny could have pulled any negative number. Oh, sorry. I was going to read the question. Danny also pulled and this, I don't know why it's not in here. Hopefully it was in there when you did the quiz. So it should be Danny also pulled a -0.2 as his first card. He pulled a second card and says he has to put his card back in the deck because he got a negative answer. So what card could Danny have pulled out? So list all correct answers and explain why or show your work. So you said Danny could pull any negative number out of this variety. So we could have -0.1, -0.3, -0.4, and -0.5. And he would have to put his cards back because that's what the rule said. Well, let's try one out. So let's say we know he pulled a -0.2 first. So let's say his second card was -0.1. Let's try it out and let's see what happens. Again, remember, they're playing a subtraction game. So we're going to subtract -0.1. Let's follow these rules. We're subtracting, so we need to rewrite as adding the opposite. We also refer to this in class as keep, change, change, where we keep our first number the same, change subtraction to addition, and change the sign of your second number. Now we're adding, so we follow the addition rules. So we have opposite signs, so we subtract. We have 0.2 minus 0.1 will give us 0.1. But now the question is it going to be positive or a negative answer? Well, what number is bigger, 0.2 or 0.1? 0.2 is bigger, so we will have a negative answer. So I am going to give you this one. -1 is correct. So -1 is one of your answers. So that much is good. Perfect. But let's try -3. And this is why I want you to really just try them all. So let's try -3. So -0.2 minus -0.3. We're going to use those integer rules. Right now we're subtracting. Subtraction says we're going to rewrite as adding the opposite. So now I'm going to add a positive. So now we have -0.2 plus positive 0.3. Keep going with those integer rules. Here we have addition. So now we're adding. Do we have the same sign or do we have different signs? We have negative and a positive, so we have different signs. So we're going to subtract. And when I subtract, we get 0.1. And now we need to find out, keep the sign of the bigger number. What number's bigger, 0.2 or 0.3? 0.3 is bigger, and 0.3 is positive. So now our answer is going to be a positive 0.01. And if he got a positive answer, then he would keep his card. But Danny told us in the question that he had to put his cards back. So that means he got a negative answer. So -0.3 does not work. So what I want you to do from here, I want you to keep trying. And in asking you to explain or show your work, you can use words and sentences. That's perfectly fine. But you can also show me something like this, where you show me that you've done -0.2 minus what was minus -0.1, but is now plus a positive 0.1 gives us -0.1. And we can see that yes, 0.1 is negative, so that means he had to put his cards back. So -0.1 was a correct answer. Now we just need to find out of these numbers what other numbers are correct.